Hey, welcome back to Cool Classics. Today we're going to look at the life and career of Nancy Jane Kulp, born August 28, 1921 in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. She was the only child of her parents Robert and Marjorie Kulp. Her father was a traveling salesman and her mother was a school teacher and later a principal. In 1934, the family moved from Mifflintown, Pennsylvania to Miami-Dade County, Florida. In 1943, Nancy graduated with a bachelor's degree in journalism from Florida State College for Women. She continued her studies for a master's degree in English and French at the University of Miami, where she was also a member of the sorority Phi Beta Phi. During her time there in college, she was also working for the Miami Beach Tropics newspaper, writing profiles of celebrities such as Clark Gable and the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. In 1944, she left the University of Miami to help with the World War II effort. She joined the women's branch of the United States Naval Reserve. She obtained the rank of lieutenant junior grade and received several decorations while in the service, including the American Campaign Medal. She was honorably discharged from the reserve in 1946. In 1951, she moved to Hollywood, California to work in MGM's publicity department. Director George Kakar at the studio soon convinced her that she should be an actress, so the same year she began her publicity job at MGM, she also made her film debut as a character actress in The Model and the Marriage Broker. Now for the next 3 years she continued her publicity job while appearing in other films, but they were still small roles and mainly uncredited. But in 1954 she appeared in the movie Sabrina. The stars of the movie were Humphrey Bogart, Audrey Hepburn, and William Holden, but one of the other cast members was an up-and-coming actor who had been paying his dues. His name was Raymond Bailey. More on him in just a moment. That same year, she got to appear in a movie called A Star is Born, starring Judy Garland and James Mason. Yes, that's the same A Star is Born movie that is remade every generation or two, and it's always a big hit. And from there, she started to appear in at least 3 movies per year, like You're Never Too Young with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, The High Cost of Loving, The Parent Trap, Forever Darling, starring Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. And from there, she starts to appear on television sitcoms, and they just come fast and furious. It looks like 7 to 10, maybe 15 of them some years. The Life of Riley, It's a Great Life, I Love Lucy, Cheyenne, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Perry Mason, Mr. Ed, The Twilight Zone, The Danny Thomas Show, My Three Sons, and the list goes on and on. But then in 1962, she tries out for a part and gets it in a new sitcom called The Beverly Hillbillies. She would be playing the character Jane Hathaway, whom the Clampetts address as Miss Jane. She's Mr. Drysdale's loyal, highly educated, and efficient secretary. And Mr. Drysdale is played by Raymond Bailey, whom she was in the Sabrina movie with while they were both trying to get better parts. And this could be considered both of their big breaks. Nancy got to play in 246 episodes of the Beverly Hillbillies. It's a great run, and she was perfect for the part. Again, you can't replace her with anyone. Now, after the Beverly Hillbillies ended, Nancy made many more guest appearances on sitcoms such as Chips, Love Boat, Fantasy Island, Simon and Simon. She also did the movie in 1981, Return of the Beverly Hillbillies. It was made for TV, but where she stands out to me was a reoccurring role on Sanford and Son. She played May Hopkins, and she would pop up in there and have a good argument with Fred Sanford. It was cool. Now, in 1984, after working with the Democratic State Committee in her home state of Pennsylvania on a few projects, Nancy ran unopposed as the Democratic nominee for the United States House of Representatives. And she got the nomination, which meant she had to go up against a Republican opponent who was the incumbent Bud Schuster. Now, Nancy was considered the underdog. At 62 years old at the time, she said some voters might feel her background as an actress was frivolous, but she says that Ronald Reagan had taken the route from screen to politics, and that anyone who listens and cares can do well. Nancy started to gain a lot of support and was making steady progress in the polls. That's when Bud Schuster's campaign contacted her former Beverly Hillbillies co-star Buddy Ebsen. Eventually, Buddy made a bunch of radio advertisements in support of Bud Schuster, in which he calls Nancy too liberal for America. These radio advertisements were ran thousands of times all over Pennsylvania. Nancy ended up losing the election, garnering 59,000 votes to Bud Schuster's 117,000. When the media asked her about all of this, she says, "I'm not blaming the loss on the advertisements that Buddy ran. What I am saying is that he is not the kindly old Jed Clampett that you saw on the show. This was none of his business and he should have stayed out of it." She said, "He did this because we didn't get along. I found him very difficult to work with, but I would have never done anything like this to him." Now, for a couple years afterward, her friends and family said that they were instructed by her to never bring his name up at all. The only time she wants to hear it is when someone's asking her about the Beverly Hillbillies. Other than that, his name is to never be spoken. And a couple years after that, Nancy said that Buddy reached out to her and said that he wanted to apologize and let her know that he is very sorry for doing this and that she was 100% correct. This was none of his business. He should have never gotten involved, and he feels horrible about everything. Nancy said that his apology was sincere and that they reconciled. And throughout the years, Nancy stayed very close to Raymond Bailey, who played Mr. Drysdale. She says that he was a very good friend to her. In 1990, Nancy was diagnosed with cancer. She started to receive chemotherapy, but by 1991, the cancer had spread. She ended up passing away on February 3rd, 1991, at the age of 69 in Palm Desert, California. Her remains were interred at the Westminster Presbyterian Cemetery in Miffletown, Pennsylvania. Wow, another amazing story. I consider Nancy very underrated. Her comedic delivery was great. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to check out my video on Raymond Bailey, who played Mr. Drysdale. I also made one on Irene Ryan, who played Granny. Cool classics.